There's a lot of things that I can take away from the first weekend of NBA games. But here's the big one. Here's the important one. Here's the one that translates to most all of these stories. The NBA's bubble, or the bubble in general, exposes you. Right? I mean, look, this happens with adversity in general, but with the NBA bubble, it exposes you. Are you a guy that cannot manage your body in preparation for games? The bubble is going to expose you. How do I know that? Did you watch Saturday? The games were embarrassing because some teams just had no juice, nothing in the tank. Nothing. And the only likely answer I can take from that is that there's just dudes that are not ready. They're not in shape. And while they're in great physical condition, they're not in basketball regular to postseason level shape. Because if you are, well, then you're fine after a day off. And if you're not, well, dude, you get exposed. Your body locks up. Your game suffers. You can't cover people. It becomes almost humiliating. I'm not sure if you guys saw what the Clippers did on a Saturday afternoon, but it was absolutely thoroughly and completely embarrassing to the New Orleans Pelicans. The Lakers were much the same way. They get beat by, it was a much closer game than the final score, but there were guys that just didn't have any juice in the tank. Denver, same thing. And remember, Denver's a team, they're going to get exposed because they rely on altitude. They rely on the home court advantage, which is unique to anyone in the sport. So the bubble doesn't just expose that. Look at Zion Williamson and how out of shape he's looked. It exposes that Zion can flex all he wants and show us what great physical condition he had gotten himself into during quarantine. The only thing we can go by is, and I know he spent time away from the bubble, but when you're away from the bubble, that doesn't mean you can't go running every day. That doesn't mean you can't find a way to train. Yes, you come back, you get quarantined for 4 days. Granted, you can't do anything, but he's been back for a week, and he looks awful for Zion Williamson. And they're barely playing him. It's not like he's playing 35 minutes and he's gassed at the end of 25 minutes. They're playing him in 2 or 3 minute stretches, and he can't get up and down the basketball floor. The bubble also exposes if you really love hoop. You know, you watch some of these guys, they're going to other teams' games. It's like an AAU tournament. Whether it's their boys or somebody they want to play or pick up on something. There's no fanfare. They don't have to fight for a ticket. They just go like, hey, I'm going to go over to the game. And they walk in. You get to find out who really loves hoop. Who takes care of their body, who really loves hoop. And last night, you know what else got exposed? Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis is a spectacular talent. I mean, his size, his strength, he's so long. Dude can get to the cup literally one dribble from the NBA three-point line and Euro step and finish at the rim. And for 3.5 quarters, that stuff works. But the Houston Rockets, and let's give some credit to the Houston Rockets, who were getting body blow. Brook Lopez is eating down there in the low post. Giannis was eating some in the low post. They're just body blowing him. But they stuck with it. And Giannis gagged away what should have been a quality possession, important possession. He leaves his feet, were nowhere to go, and turns the basketball over and looked very much like a guy who didn't totally know what he wanted to do or when he wanted to do it. The bubble exposed him as being not inexperienced, but inexperienced in a game played at that level. I mean, that was a I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do right now, but what, and look, Harden has this all the time. And by the way, as great as Harden's stats were, you know, the possession before, Harden dribbles around, nobody else touches the ball. He settles for a 28-foot three that comes up short, and that's when Giannis had the ball. So it's not like Harden's perfect. And Harden has had far more experiences. But the stuff Giannis is able to get away with, quarters 1 through 3, is the stuff he's able to get away with in the regular season. He's not usually able to get away with in the playoffs. And last night was exposure. He just went straight to the hoop and missed. We almost give him a pass. I mean, like, look, LeBron got caught up in midair. The game winner against the Clippers, that wasn't a great shot. He went and followed a shot and tipped it in. But at least, and maybe this is more confirmation bias, at least LeBron looked like he knew what he was trying to do. I'm going to go up and I'm going to shoot the shot regardless. And then if I miss it, I'm going to go get it. Whereas Giannis was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to. I'm just going to drive as hard as I can. And then, oh, man, maybe I should pass. Maybe I should. Oh, no. Now, listen, it doesn't mean that he's a bad basketball player, that he's massively overrated, shouldn't be the MVP. But when you see him drive and force shots and he's got shooters open, when you see him get an offensive rebound, he's got Kyle Korver, who's an elite shooter, open and he misses him. When you see him in a vital possession leave his feet with nowhere to go and throw a cross-court pass that gets intercepted, you start to go like, wow, he looks young. He looks inexperienced. He looks unsure. And these are the differences between really good teams and championship teams. You know? It's like one of these deals where, you know, they always say, well, it's the make or miss league. Like, okay, that's true. For the championship teams, sometimes you're going to miss shots. Sometimes you're going to make shots. Nothing you can do. But when you turn it over or you miss passing the guys who are wide open, when you force things and it looks clunky. It looked clunky for them much down the stretch. Unless there was a timeout called to get him an obvious clear out, it just looked clunky. That's what's happened in the playoffs, and that's what the bubble exposed. Now, the good news is there is still time, right? You still have 6 more games. Granted, not all of them we play at that level. Then you'll have a couple rounds in the playoffs. But if there's a fear, it's a healthy fear for Buck fans, for Giannis fans. Or maybe it's not a fear, it's a hope for Warrior fans who think they can get Giannis. Or for Knick fans who think they can get Giannis. Or for Laker fans, or whomever thinks they can get him, because he's really not there yet. And we're trying to make him there because the stats and the MVP awards say he should be there. He is a marvelous talent. An incredible physical specimen, size, dexterity, and he's a smart player, okay? But smart players can make bad decisions, and when pressure impacts it, and you're not making the quality decisions, and you're turning the ball over and missing guys that have to get the ball when they're open, because that's what they're on the floor for. Yeah, I thought the bubble exposed that. The bubble exposed that. And the bubbles exposed the Lakers' lack of depth. And the bubbles exposed how some guys aren't really in nearly as good a shape as their bodies would tell you. The bubbles has exposed that. Really exposed. So, and you know what the bubble also exposed? Look, Carmelo Anthony's in incredible shape, like the best shape of his life. Am I the only one who watches him and thinks, you know, had Carmelo gotten into great shape 10 years ago, much of the narrative about Carmelo Anthony would be different.